Housing advocates in Mississippi say renters have few options when problems with their housing go unresolved.
Gavin Wallace with the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center explains.
For more than a month, Lily Coleman has lived without running water at her Jackson apartment complex. It's one of several where Jackson Water has cut off services in recent years because of large unpaid balances. Coleman says water is included in what she pays Addison Place Apartments each month, but despite the frustration, she'll continue paying rent until her family can afford to move.
We trying to save some money right now to get out of position to move.
Water shutoffs at Jackson apartment complexes have raised questions about protections for renters. Mississippi legislation addressed one concern this year, with a law making it a crime to knowingly, willfully, and unlawfully fail to apply utility payments collected from tenants to the bills for which they were collected. But housing advocates say the concerns extend beyond utilities. Ashley Richardson is the director of housing law at the Mississippi Center for Justice. She says the organization is pushing for changes that include more notice before evictions for non-payment of rent and changes to the state's repair and deduct process.
In the work that I did with MCJ, I would say that the Mississippi landlord-tenant statute, it favors landlords more than tenants.
Under the repair and deduct process, tenants can make certain repairs and seek reimbursement when a landlord does not address a qualifying problem. But tenants generally must first provide written notice and give the landlord 30 days to make the repair. Richardson says that can be difficult when a repair is urgent or a tenant cannot afford the upfront cost.
Depending on the repair, we might need something more than 30 days. A lot of the people that we service, they do not have the money to pay for the repairs themselves.
State law also limits repair costs to no more than 1 month's rent and prevents tenants from using the remedy more than once in 6 months. Representative Fabian Nelson, who represents Jackson, introduced bills in 2025 and again this year to remove both restrictions. His latest proposal died in committee. Reporting with the Roy Howard Community Journalism Center, I'm Gavin Wallace.